listen, 'cause everybody knows.
All right, everyone. Again, it is Dr. Sharifa Clarke, and I am a chiropractor. So today I posted earlier on my social media platforms that today is International Albinism Awareness Day, June 13th, 2020, and I will be answering questions in regards to albinism, questions that different people may have had. Now, I did this before about 3 years ago, back in 2017. And what I did a live at that time, but I did like Facebook Live. The reason why I'm doing a video format is because I'm going to post this to multiple social media platforms. So it'll be easier for me to write a video and then post it to the different platforms. Okay, so I'm looking down because I'm reading the questions as I see them. All right, so the first question, of course, what is albinism? Albinism is a genetic condition where your skin, you don't produce melanin, and you don't produce melanin in your skin, hair, and eyes. Specifically, you have something called melanocytes. Melanocytes are cells that produce melanin, and for people with albinism, your melanocytes do not produce melanin. So in a nutshell, that is what occurs with albinism. Now, how do a person get albinism? That's another question. So something that you're born with. So it's not like vitiligo that it starts happening over time. No, when you were born with albinism. And what it is it is a genetic trait, and it is a recessive trait, meaning both of your parents are generally, at least a minimum, they're both carriers of the albinism gene. So most kids who are born, when you're born with albinism, both your parents generally are going to look like whatever race they are or whatever ethnicity they are. They're going to have the same complexion, hair, whatever, and they will have a child with albinism. And that's because they both carry the gene, and it's a recessive trait. Now, of course, people with albinism, if they have children with another person with albinism, those kids will definitely come out with albinism. Another question was, hold on. Another question was basically like, if a person have kids, like what are the chances of them having albinism? So again, like I said, you have to have that person have the trait. And I'm pretty sure at this point there are genetic testing that will be able to check to see if you have that recessive trait and if your spouse or significant other have that recessive trait. So if two people both have the recessive trait, when they because in order for you to produce a child with albinism, I don't know if anyone here have taken genetics and you had to do the little P's and then you had to cross the genotype and all that. That's pretty much the same thing with albinism. So you have a big R and a little r, and you'll have to just cross it to like give you the actual figuration. So if I wish I had my little whiteboard that I normally have. So let's say we draw the little Punnett squares, right? You draw the little Punnett squares and you're doing your genetic crosses and what have you. Every time a person gets pregnant, right? If you have the gene and your spouse have the gene, or significant other have a gene, every pregnancy, there is a 1 in 4 chance that child that is born is going to have albinism. There is also a 1 in 4 chance that child that is born is going to not have the trait or have albinism. And then there's a 50% chance that the child is going to carry the gene for albinism themselves. So basically, with every pregnancy, it's a 25% chance that this child is going to have albinism. There's a 25% chance that the child won't have albinism or won't have the trait for albinism. And then there's a 50% chance that the child will be a carrier for the condition when it's all said and done. So that's the genetics of it. So there are generally 2 types of albinism. There is ocular albinism and oculocutaneous albinism. Ocular albinism is people who have albinism where it only affects their eyes. And nothing else is affected. As far their skin color is the same, their hair color is the same, everything is the same. So it only affects their eyes. Now, oculocutaneous albinism, that's going to affect your hair, eyes, and skin. So it basically affects everything that affects a person who has regular albinism. Now, oculocutaneous albinism actually have 7 further subdivision, which what I'm actually going to do is I'll probably also put the link to a website, probably know a website that actually give you a breakdown of those 7 different types of oculocutaneous albinism subdivisions. But I, as well as my little brother, we both have oculocutaneous albinism because clearly our hair, skin, eyes are all affected. Now, people with albinism, whether it's just ocular or whether it's oculocutaneous albinism, you know, we do have vision issues, and everyone vision issue varies. So everyone with albinism won't have the same visual limitations. Some people visual limitations are worse than others. For example, for me, I'm able to drive. There are some people with albinism, their vision is very, 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 very poor where they cannot drive. However, we all find a way to maneuver through life, and we get what we have to get done did when it's all said and done. Because honey, that's the eyes we're born with, that's the eyes we have, and that's the eyes you're going to have to just work with. Now, is vision difficult at times? Yes, because I remember when I was in school, I used to, you know, be all up on the board. If any of you guys are here watching this and you guys went to elementary school, middle school with me, y'all knew I was like, bam, right there close to the chalkboard or whatever, because I mean, even with my glasses on, because my vision was so poor. So yes, the vision part is definitely there, and there have been challenges, definitely been challenges, but there are challenges where, you know, I just had to figure it out and deal with it. Which leads to another question that someone asked, specifically with my visuals with driving. So I drive, of course, but I try to make sure, number one, I drive in the daytime, and at night, the only time I'm driving is if I'm leaving work later and I'm going places that I know where I'm going. I don't be trying to adventure out at night because, again, yes, I'm able to see. It's not like I can't see, but you know, road signs are harder to see, definitely at night. So I definitely try to be in my house at night, or I'll get a friend to pick me up if we're going somewhere, or I'll take an Uber or whatever. But I do drive in the daytime. I have no issues because, you know, I'm able to see pretty clearly in the day. I'm good. I have my glasses on. I have prescription sunglasses. I have regular glasses. I have contacts. So I use a variety of those 3 mixture anytime I'm driving behind the wheel. I have never gotten behind the wheel without some kind of visual aid, whether it's glasses, contacts, or prescription sunglasses. So, because, you know, I'm trying to make sure I'm safe. I'm trying to arrive alive. I'm trying to make sure everybody else around me arrive alive also. But yeah, if I ever feel like it's too far for me to drive, I feel like it's too dark, or I feel like the weather is too poor, you know, I will call an Uber or Lyft all day, every day, or have a friend or whoever, you know, give me a ride. So I'm not ashamed when it comes to that. Another question that was asked was, and it pertains to racism, like, have I faced racism being a woman of color with albinism? And the answer to that question is yes. But before I get into that, I want you to understand that albinism affects every ethnicity, every race, as well as animals. So it's not just people, African American, Black, who will have albinism, people who are Asian, people who are Caucasian, people who are Indian, and like I said, animals. So albinism affects human beings, animals, and it doesn't know any race or ethnicity. Anyone could get it. It's like I said, it's a genetic condition, and anyone could get it. But I have faced racism where I've faced racism on 2 different counts. So I've faced racism from people who are white who thought initially that I was white, but then they realized, or they learned, whether they realized or somebody told them, or they learned that I had albinism and that I'm actually Black and it's a genetic condition, and they actually learned what it was, and then they started treating me different because they thought I was white, but now I'm not. And you know, they probably were just a person who was racist, but now they know that technically I'm not white, so they start treating me, you know, different or what have you. So I faced it on that front. I've also faced it on the front where people who are people of color who, don't understand or don't realize that I have albinism, and or they do realize it, but they don't understand it. They just know that I'm different, but I look black, but I don't look black. Like, I have features and characteristics, but my skin color, my hair color, and things like that. They're is in their mind, they can't gather it together. So I've been treated differently, and I won't probably necessarily call that racism per se, but I definitely was treated differently because of it by people of color, especially, of course, kids when you're younger. Even as I've been older, I have been treated differently because of it. And it's something that, like, at this point in time in my life, that stuff it rolls all the way off my back. I don't even let it bother me. When I was younger, did it bother me? Yes. Even, high school, even earlier on in college, stuff like that bothered me. But I'm at the point where, hey, it is what it is till it's not what it's not. I am Dr. Sharifa Clarke. I am who I am. I love who I am. And you can like it, hate it, or love it. It doesn't bother me any. Okay? Okay. All right. Next question was, this was a good one. So somebody asked me, as a chiropractor, or even going through chiropractic school and things like that, was it difficult? So let me tell y'all a quick story. So yes, it was an issue, but like I said, I maneuvered. So when it came to the board exams, I would never forget this. One of the board exams, they had to enlarge my test. Cause this writing be small on these tests. Okay. They be trying to fit a lot of questions on, in a small space. And I would never forget one of the exams. I think it was when I was taking the physiotherapy section of the board. And, I turned the page and I get to the page and I realize that I'm missing, about 10 or 15 questions. And I'm like, I'm flipping the paper back, front, looking at the front, like, did I miss something? Is it backwards? So I was missing like a lot of questions, and that's because, they printed a special exam for me, but I guess a few pages left in the printer at the board's headquarters somewhere, and I definitely started freaking out. I told the prompter, I'm like, I'm missing pages in my test. So, what they ended up having to do was they had to just find a copy of and they actually hoped they had a version of the exam that I was taking, like a smaller copy, and they had to, give me extra time because the copy, of course, it was smaller writing, and it took me a lot longer to read the questions because it was smaller writing. But that was probably one of the most traumatic experience as far as being a student was while I was in chiropractic school. That's a board exam. Those tests were expensive. And I'm like, I can't afford to be retaking this test. But luckily I prevailed. I did well. I passed the test. Glory to God. Hallelujah. But that was a definite difficult situation. Another thing that was a bit difficult was x-rays, radiology. As chiropractors, we take radiology, and there's a whole radiology section on our Part 4 boards. And I was very concerned with not being able to see certain things and not being able to, catch on to it. So when I got to the radiology section, I made sure I really dived into, I feel like I studied way more than I did any other section because it was all visual and I didn't want to miss anything. So when I was even studying for my boards, I really dived in because I did not want to miss anything, because of Part 4 board, the radiology section is, you're looking at images, and it's the old school image. It's not digital. They got a little plastic image and they have it up on the little white, the glass, the fluorescent light, and you're looking at the image and you're answering questions based off of what you're seeing on the image or not seeing on the image. So I remember initially when I first started, I had asked one of the counselors at the school, and they told me that they thought it might have been too difficult for me with my vision issues. They really thought that part of the board was going to be difficult for me when I got there. And this was early on in my school career, like the first trimester, first quarter. I remember I sat down and spoke with her, and it was like, I was like, this is something you have to really think about. I'm like, listen, I told her, listen, I done got into this, I done moved all the way to Port Orange. I'm like, we're going to have to make this work. I'm going to have to figure this out. I'm going to figure a way to see this stuff, to do what I need to do to pass everything that I need to pass. So you said it might be difficult, but I believe that I will be okay. And I'm like, I have no choice but to be okay and make it. And, you know, I'm a praying person. Glory to God. Hallelujah. I got it together and I did well on part 4 of the boards, which again, radiology was a big part of it. And I got a really, 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 really good score on my overall part 4 boards. So I feel like really knowing that that was a definite weakness and the fact that I put additional time into it helped me to not fall short in those areas. So with the vision, I know that vision things trip me up. So I just go the extra mile. I take additional time to do certain things. And I mean, I'm fine with it. That's how I've been living my whole life. It's like a part of, it's kind of natural at this point. So I have no issues with taking that extra time or that additional time to figure things out and work things out and get it done. So that was that question. All right, I got really into that, my bad. You know, I got real intense for a second there. So give me a second. I just done lost all my little questions. Hold on. I think this is it. I gotta open this all. Oh crap. I done exit out of the stuff. Hold on. Okay, now this is a random question, a weird question, but I'm going to answer it still because I told you I'm going to answer these questions. So the question was, do all my body part have the same color? Meaning, since both of my parents are black, you know, I'm Jamaican. For those of you who don't know that I'm Jamaican. So is all my, like, basically are part to me black and white or whatever? No. The answer to that question is no. The color you see on my face is the color that's on the rest of my body, head to toe. My hair is blonde, you know, like there's no black. I may have a few black hairs here and there, black strands of hair, but that's about the only thing that gets dark, okay? Another question was about skin cancer, which is a really good question. So, okay. Somebody was like, since I don't, somebody actually knew a bit about albinism. They was like, you know, I know that you guys don't have, your skin, your melanocytes are inactive and it doesn't produce melanin. So they're thinking like, okay, well, people who get skin cancer, like melanoma and things like that. Now, actually, people with albinism can get skin cancer. And that's because our skin is so fair. We don't have the protection it needs. So we have to be extra protective when going out into the sun. We need to, of course, you know, like I said, I have my sunglasses on. We should be wearing sunscreen. And me personally, I hate wearing sunscreen unless I'm like really going out and like going to be in the sun, like I'm going to the beach or a park or something like that. So I personally hate wearing sunscreen. But what I have been doing, I found a moisturizer, a facial daily moisturizer, where it has SPF in it and it doesn't react how normal sunscreen reacts. So I've been wearing that every day now. But we do have to wear sunscreen. We need to wear hats when we're actually going out and being out in the sun for a long time. And we're like, be covered up because, you know, it is really serious with people with albinism. We can get skin cancer very easily, actually, because we don't have any melanin and, you know, it's easier for us to get skin cancer. So we definitely have to stay protected when it comes to the sun. We burn easily. We don't tan. I don't tan. If I go outside for 10 minutes and stand there, I will come in red. I will burn. You know, my friend said, anytime we go to any activities, I remember we went to the pool and my friends, like, they have the sunscreen and they're like wiping me down. They was like, Sharifa, we don't want you to turn into a lobster. So they wipe me down like everywhere to make sure, you know, I don't get sunburn because I burn easily. Like I said, 10 minutes outside and I will burn, especially, you know, it's the summertime now. It's very hot right now. There's been a few days here in Texas when it's been like 99, 100 or whatnot. So yeah, it is, we have to be protected when we go out into the sun. I have had pretty bad sunburns in the past, and I never want to experience those again. So I make sure I'm protected, especially when I know I'm going to be out in the sun for an extended period of time. Okay, next question. All right, the next question is, and it's a personal question that was actually asked, and like I said, I'm going to answer it. Was do I want to have a child that has albinism? So I want to have a child that is healthy, point blank, period. I want them to have 10 toes, 10 fingers. I want them to have proper cognitive behavior. I want them to just be good. So whether they have albinism, whether they're a mixture of whatever me and their father is, whatever. That's all I care about. Whether they're have albinism or not, at this point I really don't care, because it is what it is. I'm gonna love my child regardless. Now, there was a time when I was younger, I would not lie. When I was younger, when I was in middle school, because that was a real difficult time, because kids did not understand albinism back then. So kids were real cruel and real mean. But there was a time I was like, I would never want to have a child with albinism. Specifically, I did not want them to go through some of the things that I had to endure. So when I was at a certain age, I did feel that way. But now that I'm adult and I understand better, and I'm educating people on it so that they can educate their children on it, so everybody could be educated on this subject matter. My child could have albinism or be regular skin tone. To me, it doesn't matter, because that's going to be my child, and I'm going to go hard for them regardless. All right. So I think that was all the questions that I had. I hope this was informative, and I hope you enjoyed this video. And again, if you have additional questions, just drop it in the comment section. I'll talk to y'all later. Have a blessed day.